Hi everyone, my name is Allie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about 4 knits that I am disappointed in. So I was inspired to do this video when I was looking through my closet and looking at my knitted garments, and I saw a few that I thought, oh, I haven't worn that in a while, or oh, I haven't really seen that in a while because it's been under a whole bunch of other knitted garments and things like that. And it really got me thinking as to why I'm not reaching for these garments anymore. Some of it has to do with the weather because it is now starting to get quite hot here, so I don't exactly want to wear sweaters in the summer, at least not for long. But the majority of the reason why I haven't reached for these projects is because I am just frustrated with the finished object and how it came out. Some of it has to do with my own personal techniques, and some of it had to do with the way the pattern was written, and some of it was just me not truly understanding at the time. I consider myself still a beginner knitter. I really started getting into knitting around 2 years ago, but these are more of my beginner knits, like some of my very first garments that I made, some of the first times I worked with natural fibers. So I really learned a lot through all of these projects that I'm going to talk about today. So even though they are kind of frustrating in a way and that I'm disappointed in them, I still really treasure them because they were a learning experience. And I truly believe no matter how the outcome of your knitted or any kind of handmade thing ends up, even if it's not exactly what you wanted, it's definitely a learning experience. So I wanted to sit down and reflect on each of these projects. There's 4 of them that I'm going to talk about today and really go through why I haven't reached for them and why I'm disappointed in them. So here are the 4 projects that I'm going to talk about today. I have 2 sweaters and 2 cardigans. So let's get started with the very first project. Okay, so the very first project I want to talk about is this pink striped sweater. So this is a pattern that I guess it's technically not a pattern. It's a free-handed raglan kind of crew neck sweater that I made out of some scrap yarn that I had in my stash. I don't exactly remember when I made this sweater. I think it must have been like 2023, I want to say. I know I featured it kind of when I first started my Instagram, and I think that was around 2023. I don't exactly remember. This was before I took any notes on anything, so I only vaguely remember about this sweater, but I have a love-hate relationship with this sweater because I really love the construction. I mean, it's a simple raglan here with a wider crew neck neckline, which is really what I wanted at the time when I made this sweater. But I couldn't find a good free pattern at the time, or I didn't exactly know how to search for what I wanted. So I decided to make my own. And this, I think, was my 2nd or 3rd finished object. This is why I've started to write things down because I don't remember now. But before this, I had made a step-by-step sweater by Florence, which I actually made into a t-shirt. But I pretty much followed that, except I adjusted the cast-on numbers for the neckline and just made it a wider and just didn't increase as many for the raglan stitches. But let's talk about why I am disappointed and frustrated mainly at myself with this sweater. So a little bit about this sweater is, one, it's made from scrap yarn, which at the time, I was not buying any natural fibers, so I know for a fact that this is acrylic yarn, and I have absolutely nothing against acrylic yarn. I think it's a great tool. I use it for many other things. And that being said, even though I don't know where this acrylic yarn has come from, I really like it. This is one positive that I do like about it. It is very drapey and very airy. It's super light. I believe this is a sport weight or maybe even a DK weight. I think probably more a DK weight. yarn, and it's quite soft and also like a little bit squishy, even though it is like has a really nice drape. So that's one positive about this sweater. And also, like I said, I really enjoyed the construction of it. I enjoyed the long sleeves, and I enjoyed the crew neck and the stripes. I'm actually really proud of myself with the stripes and the fact that they line up even on the body to the sleeve. I think that's a really nice perk about this sweater. Even though I don't wear it, I am pretty proud of myself for creating this, because I am making a striped sweater now and I feel like I'm overthinking it way too much, but this one turned out really great. So some of the negatives about this sweater is I want to say the main negative about this sweater and what has kept me from wearing it is not the yarn, it's not the fit, it's my absolutely horrendous job of weaving in the ends. Like, absolutely horrendous. I'm going to show you the best that I can on the camera. But it is just, I don't know if it's the way I connected the yarn when I changed colors, which I think is a big part of the issue here, along with the way that I was weaving things in. So I changed colors in the underarm, and this is my color change situation. I'm not sure what I was doing, but it is just quite sloppy and it is very sad. I got a bit better on the sleeves, I would say. The sleeves are they're a bit rough, but they're not as bad. So I'm not really sure what was going on. I remember having a bit of trouble with weaving in ends and also the color change thing. I think I didn't wrap the yarn correctly or didn't do a good job at just tightening my stitches during the color changes, but it is just so sloppy and quite embarrassing. And I know I could go back and fix it, and I might, because again, I really enjoy this sweater. But that is definitely the one big thing that is keeping me from wearing it, is not only that this looks quite sloppy, but it's also just like the work that I will have to do to fix it. And I think it would be worth it, but it's just, I'm not sure if it's something I want to take the time to do, you know? So this is definitely one of my very early projects. It was also free-handed, kind of. I was vaguely following a pattern, but I was really kind of making my own numbers with the crew neck and adjusting the raglan increases. And I really tried it on as I went, like every step, like every, I think, 6 or 8 different increases. I would try it on and see how I like it, but I really, really like the fit. But even up here, you can see it's quite sloppy with the color changes, which is like really sad because it's such a pretty sweater. Like, what was I doing? Why would I not just weave in the ends correctly? But yeah, I think that's really all I have to say about this sweater. That's basically the main issue that I have with it, is the way that I did the color changes and the way that I weaved in the ends. It's just quite sloppy and it looks very beginnerish, and I know I can go back and fix it, but it's one of those things where it's like, do I want to spend the time on fixing it, or would I rather create a new sweater with the kind of the same color palettes and make it fresh from there? I don't know. We'll see. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about, the next project, is the Up Until Dawn sweater by Kutova Kika. So this is what it looks like. I'm going to try to go in chronological order in terms of when I made these, and I think I'm doing it correct. I'm pretty sure I made that first and then the sweater, but it could have been vice versa. But regardless, these two were made very close in time together. So this sweater was kind of my very first, I would say, paid pattern sweater that I made. It was around the time that I was trying to really get into knitting and take things a little bit more seriously. So I was watching a bunch of knitting YouTubers and like looking at patterns and things, and my best friend actually suggested this pattern because she really liked it, and she was like, let's make it together, and so we did. So this is a chunky raglan sweater, pretty simple. I would say it's just your standard raglan, honestly, just a chunky version. So for this yarn, I'm not exactly sure of the name, but it is Lion's brand. I think it's the antibacterial or I'll pop it up on screen somewhere, but it's a Lion's brand, chunky, antibacterial, antimicrobial, blended yarn. So I really actually like this yarn choice a lot. It is a bit of a rougher yarn, but not in the way that I find scratchy at all. I believe it does have some wool in it, if I'm remembering correctly, so it does have a little bit of that kind of naturey feel to it, but again, not scratchy at all. I do think it has pilled quite a bit. I think you can even see on the body. I'm not sure how well it's picking up on camera, but... And then on the arms, just like a little bit under, but I think not too bad, I would say, for a chunky kind of softer yarn. It does have some tooth, like I said, but it is definitely a squishy yarn, as most kind of chunky yarns are. So, looking at this, it's definitely an improvement from my striped sweater. But one of the main problems I have with this sweater is I did not make it long enough. And I am sure I will be popping in like wear on pictures of every project that I talk about. But this sweater I did not make long enough. So it kind of lays right on my hips, and pretty much any movement that I make makes it right up. And the main reason I made this sweater was for the winter time, because it is a chunky, oversized sweater. And I really wanted something warm that is cozy and, comfy. But the fact that it rides up bothers me so much. I cannot describe enough how much it bothers me. Nothing is worse than having cold winter air on your back and your stomach. It's just... it's maddening. So I'm really mad about myself for that I did not just go get one more ball of yarn and make it a little bit longer, so that wouldn't happen. I think the sleeve length is pretty good. I mean, you can even see how much longer the sleeves are than the body. Like, what was I thinking? I don't really like crop things unless they're like tight and cropped, but like, what? Why would I not just get one more ball of yarn? The other thing that I don't like about this sweater, and this is all personal stuff for me, I really like the pattern. I love Kika. I love watching her videos. I have made many of her patterns already, so it is definitely not the pattern. But I guess when I was binding off, I believe in the pattern it says to do a standard bind off, and that's what I did for the bottom and the sleeves. But I definitely bound off too tightly. So now I have the issue of not only is it too short, but it is tight and short. So it just creates this really weird feeling, and I am so sad about it because I really love this sweater. Like, it is very warm. I think I did a pretty good job at everything. There are some small like end weaving in issues, which I will say I've gotten a lot better at weaving in ends, but you can't really see on a chunky sweater like this. It's not exactly noticeable. But that is my two main issues with this, and I have worn this several times, but each time I wear it, I'm like, I wish I wore something else, because it's a bit frustrating to wear, to have to constantly pull it down, to have to constantly adjust it. The sleeves, I also did a standard bind off, but the sleeves kind of work. I didn't do it as tightly. It's got a lot more stretch than the bottom has. I mean, the bottom has pretty much no stretch at all. And with the sleeves, I have quite the small wrists, so that really doesn't bother me too much. It's fine to be tight around my wrists, but my body, no, I don't, I don't enjoy it. So that's really sad, but I would definitely like to remake another one of these because I do really like it. I mean, it's a very simple raglan, but it's got a folded collar, which is super comfy, and I think this color also, this kind of like snowy gray, just works so well for the winter because I can pair it with my fluffy jacket and it just looks very cozy. And it is very cozy, except for the fit issue. But that is my second disappointment, the Up Until Dawn sweater by Kika. Okay, my next project that I would like to talk about is a cardigan. So this is the Felix Cardigan. I forget the designer's name, but I will pop it up on screen as I will with every project that I talk about. So this is what it looks like. It is this pretty simple stockinette cardigan, except it's got these beautiful lace bits on the shoulder, kind of like a raglan. It really accents the increases and things like that. So, a little bit about this sweater, or cardigan. This cardigan was my very first cardigan that I made, and it was also the very first cardigan I made using natural fibers. So for this I used Barocco Ultra Wool, I believe. I actually have a ball. Let me actually go get it so we can talk about it. Okay, I have the wool here. So yes, I used the Barocco Ultra Wool, and this is the color 33 160 peach. Yeah, color peach. So this is a worsted weight 100% super wash wool, and I really like this yarn. I have 2 balls left and I plan on making some other things with it, but this was my very first kind of fancy yarn, if you will. My very first wool yarn, my 100%. I went to visit my family in the winter in, I believe, 2023. And I went to a local yarn store and I treated myself to some wool because at the time I felt that it was time to kind of really dive into more natural fibers, since I kind of kept up with knitting for quite a bit, and I wasn't going to be just buying this for it to sit and do nothing and spending a bunch of money. So I had picked out this project and I picked out this yarn and I got started on the cardigan. So this cardigan, I really liked it because it was simple, but it does have this just really subtle lace. And at the time, in my mind, I was thinking like, oh, this will be perfect for spring. You know, by the time spring rolls around, I will have this cardigan done. And I did. But it does not fit very well. And the only part of it that does not fit is the collar and shoulder area. So I made the size small, which according to my gauge swatch should have been perfect. But I will say this was the first time I not only knit a cardigan, my first time knitting flat, and my first time working some lace, even though it is very small, but it was my very first time. So perhaps my tension wasn't that great. I think it looks okay. I don't think I see any big, it's a bit wrinkly since it's been in my closet, but I don't see any big kind of tension issues or anything like that. So I'm not sure if that was it. But it does not fit around the collar area. And I actually really like the collar area, and I thought about putting some elastic in, but I don't think that's going to fix the issue. And part of it is because I, one, did not put a button here, I think is kind of the biggest part, which in hindsight, I could probably put a button there now. But I think my collar area ended up way too wide, because in the pictures that I saw in the project pictures, it definitely was more cinched, and maybe they have elastic in it, maybe they don't, but it doesn't fit the way that I want, and it makes it hard to style because it is so low on the shoulders. I felt like unless I was wearing a tank top or something with very small sleeves, or very thin sleeves, I should say, it just didn't give me what I was hoping for. And I remember being really sad about this because, you know, it was my very first kind of wool project, my very first cardigan. You know, I pampered myself with this very nice yarn, and I was super excited about the pattern because I felt like it was very easy to read. I didn't have any issues reading the pattern. It was very clear. But I think I just did some technical things that didn't make it exactly how it should be. Because I think one thing I could do would be add a button. I think that would really, really help. And I do have pink buttons. I'm not sure if I have these exact pink buttons, but I definitely do have pink buttons in my stash. But I mean, even on the hanger, you can see without the button, it just like, it just flops. And it's kind of sad, and it looks a bit silly. And also, as I'm looking at this, look on the back here. What is that? What is that garter stitch row? I never even noticed that before. But anyway, I remember when I took this off the blocking mats, and I was so excited to take pictures because I think around the time it was maybe February or March. And I was like, oh, I'm going to wear this out, like, as soon as it was cooled or as soon as it was dry. And it just didn't fit. And I was so sad. And I have tried to wear it a couple times, but I don't know. Maybe it's because I just didn't let my gauge swatch, like, soak enough, and it didn't grow how it would have when I fully washed it or what, but it's really only the color. So I think it's definitely something to have to do with me. I must have done something wrong. I must have picked up too many stitches maybe, or perhaps I didn't go down a size for the ribbing. I don't exactly remember, but it's really sad because I love the color. It's such a pretty pink. And I really like the yarn. It was really fun to work with. And superwash, I can throw it in the wash. So maybe I'll give it another wash and get another button and see how it goes. Because with all these, I mean, yes, I'm disappointed in them, but I don't want them to be failures. Like, I don't want to look at them and, like, be upset. Like, I want to be able to salvage them, and I'm really just thinking out loud, like, what could I have done differently? What would I do differently? So I think that's what maybe I'll try, because I do really like this cardigan. I like all of these projects, which is why I'm so sad, which is why I'm so disappointed in them. But yeah, that is the Felix cardigan that I am disappointed in. Okay, the next project I want to talk about is the Ola Cardigan by Vert and Rose. So this is actually, I know I said I consider myself still a beginner knitter, and I still do, but this is definitely one of my most recent projects. I finished this in the beginning of this year. I believe it was before I started my YouTube channel, so maybe it was the end of last year, but it's very recent. And I posted a bunch about it on Instagram. I made a whole reel and things like that, and I regret to inform everyone that I am disappointed in this knit. And it's really sad because even though I'm actually disappointed in this knit, I have worn this out several times. Like, I keep reaching for it even though I'm disappointed in it. So this is one that I have still worn quite frequently, even though I am disappointed in it. And I just realized I buttoned it up wrong. So give me 1 second to rebutton it. Okay, much better. All right, so this is the Ola Cardigan by Vert and Rose. This is a top-down saddle shoulder cardigan. So, a little bit about this cardigan. It is a pretty standard stockinette cardigan, except it has this beautiful cable down each arm. But everything else is in stockinette, and it is just, I think, just a really simple cardigan with a really lovely touch on the arms, which is pretty much why I chose this pattern. I wanted to get into cables, but I wasn't ready to commit to a whole sweater of cables, and I just couldn't find any, like, 1 or 2 cabled sweaters that I really enjoyed, but then I saw this cardigan and I was like, that's perfect. It's just on the arms. It's not like a big commitment, and I think I could do it, you know. And I did. But I will say I had a lot of trouble with this cardigan. So you can't really see too much from afar. But when you zoom in, you can see some mistakes. At least I can see my mistakes. So especially on the button band, I definitely have the most mistakes. And also on the shoulder side, which is kind of hard to see now, but I will explain why it is a mistake soon. So the main issue that I had with this cardigan was both, I think, my own personal skill level and also the way that the pattern was written for me, in my opinion. The pattern did not really describe the saddle shoulder situation exactly well, in my personal opinion. Now, I've never done a saddle shoulder before, so perhaps it was adequate instruction. I just was a beginner and I wasn't sure. But I had a lot of trouble, and I even tried like looking videos up, looking through old posts to see if anybody had posted about it or things like that. But I just had so much trouble because the way that this is constructed is kind of in pieces. So you do like this piece, the saddle shoulder. Well, first you do both the saddle shoulders on their own, and then you cast on a bunch of stitches and you connect slowly through there. And I restarted that about, 15 times. It was very, very frustrating to me and very upsetting because I really wanted to like this pattern, and I do in a way, but I think a lot of it is probably my own skill issue because I do not expect every pattern to, hold my hand or provide videos or things like that. So I think I was just used to a little bit more description than what was in the pattern. And also, this is also my fault. I did not read through the pattern fully. I enjoy going step by step. I get the outline of the pattern and then I, look step by step how to work it. And I did not realize that you have to work the buttonholes with the button band. Now, in my mind, why would I not do that? But hindsight is 50-50, and I didn't connect the two dots. So I had a lot of trouble with that. And you can kind of see that by, well, first let me unbutton it so you can see my buttonholes, because I had forgotten them for, I think, the first 2 times I did it, or definitely 1, I know. So I had to go back and manufacture my own buttonholes, and they just do not look good at all. They do not look good at all. I guess it was just the first one, really, but this is what it looks like. So yeah, it does not look good in any way, shape, or form. I have to be honest, it does not look good. And it also just, I have weird garter bumps in here because I also couldn't get the button band done correctly. When I was doing it, it's kind of like a double knit except without adding those extra stitches. So you purl in this slip and then purl in the slip, and then on the other side you do the opposite. But for me, it just was not working out. So I ended up doing a 1x1 rib button band down the side, and I think it looks good. I don't think it looks bad by any means, but that definitely did cause a lot of issues kind of along the way. Oh yeah, this one I also had to do. I don't know. This one's not as obnoxious, but I did not do it properly. So that was a big struggle. But really the biggest struggle was the saddle shoulders. And then once I connected the saddle parts to everything and then started the sleeves, I thought I still had to do the slip stitch in front of the cables as it had instructed before, but I don't think you're supposed to do that. So I stopped, and you can definitely see it looks a lot better down here. So I pretty much stopped once I split for the sleeves because I was like, that doesn't exactly look the best. So it's not the worst issue on the planet, but it just kind of gives it this weird crease. And I don't particularly enjoy it. Okay, now let's talk about the yarn that I use for this project, which is really the reason why I keep picking it up and I keep wearing it, because I love it so much. So the yarn I use is by Juniper Moon Farm. It is Moonshine. I have like a little ball. I have some more, but I have this together. So this is kind of a worsted weight yarn. I think it kind of goes worsted and maybe a little bit of Aran. It's quite loosely spun, which I'll try to show here on camera. I don't know how well it will show up, but it is definitely more of a looser spun yarn, and I think that has to do with it being a blend. So it's 40% alpaca, 40% wool, and 20% silk. So it is very soft. It is very bouncy. I absolutely love the way it feels, and that is really the main reason why I keep coming back to it, because it's just really comfortable. I will say it has started to pill in some places, but I don't think it's any like big deal to me. The biggest place is kind of right here. You can see a line, but I can easily, pick that off. And it is quite the soft fabric, so I fully expect it to pill some more under the arms as well. It has started to pill, but like I said, that's to be pretty expected with softer yarn. And I have worn this quite a lot. I would say probably about 10 times now. So it definitely has gotten some wear and tear, despite the disappointment I have in it. But yeah, I guess I'm really sad at my own like knitting skills, and maybe I was being kind of a bit ambitious with this, and I thought perhaps that I was ready for this, but maybe I wasn't. But that being said, now that I've worked it once, I definitely know where my problems lie, and I think I would be able to recreate this in a much better way. And I think I honestly would choose a different yarn too, because while I really like this yarn, I think it does, the like looseness of it kind of, I don't know, it gave me a bit of a tension issue, not necessarily because of myself, but just the way the yarn was spun. It kind of creates like little bits that are smaller than others. I don't know, I don't think it'll show up on camera, but there's just like little inconsistencies that weren't able to be blocked out and stuff like that. But I think it's just how the yarn was spun. So I think next time I would choose something that has maybe a little bit more stitch definition, and I think it would fix a lot of the kind of tension-ish issues that came with having a lighter, fluffier, not as tightly spun yarn. But that being said, I actually really love this cardigan, and I definitely have worn it out way more than I thought. I kind of just put aside the obvious mistakes, but then I think, like, unless you're super close to me and unless you know knitting, you're not really gonna notice, But I will say I am disappointed in this garment regardless. So that is my 4 pieces that I am disappointed in from my wardrobe. A lot of these were earlier projects, like I said. I think I've grown a lot as a knitter, but I think it's also important to look back at the kind of not so perfect projects that I have and really kind of analyze why I don't like them, what happened, what I can do better, because if I can recognize that, then any future problems that I have, I think I could probably fix. It's actually funny because I am working on a Vert and Rose pattern right now, and pretty much the button band and the button hole problem has been completely fixed. I am doing that completely fine. So I really would say this project was a learning for myself for like working button band at the time, and also just the way that this creator writes patterns. I know every creator writes patterns differently, and every creator doesn't need to or should cater to beginners. Obviously, there's kind of, levels. I don't think a beginner should perhaps try, something very advanced and expect it to be handheld, but I think there's no harm in trying projects that are maybe a little bit out of your skill range, because knitting is really, knit and purling in just different variations, yarns over, things like that. So at the end of the day, everything is a learning process, and I am really glad that I sat down and kind of analyzed these projects and really what went wrong for me, both as a knitter and just like technical things that I know I can do better now and that I know I can fix if I need to. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you've made it this far, make sure to like and subscribe if you're interested. I have tons more content coming out, along with knitting podcasts, more free pattern videos, and more just like chatty videos as well. So thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video.